I don't know whether you'll be watching this in the morning or the afternoon, so I will say good day and thanks for stopping by, because the City of Kettering has an important message for you, that although you're seasonal employees, you're important to us, and the city wants you to understand certain fundamentals about the City of Kettering. And that is that the city wants people to work in an environment free from discrimination and harassment, where everybody feels comfortable and welcome in the environment, and that not race, not gender, not national origin, age, disability that can be accommodated, sexual orientation gets in the way of having a discrimination-free and harassment-free environment. Now, lawyers throw these terms around, discrimination, harassment, and those are legal terms with certain legal elements. But I think what's important for you to know is that we want people to behave with kindness to one another and with civility to one another, and in no way make each other feel unwelcome or denigrated or demeaned in any way because of what we call protected statuses, such as gender, religion, national origin, age, sexual orientation, etc. A couple of basic rules that maybe should go without saying, but we'll talk about them anyway. And that is, no one of you has to put up with any kind of sexual shenanigans. If a peer, or particularly a boss, makes some sort of advance to you that you're uncomfortable with or find inappropriate, you need to report that to HR. And I'd ask each of you to read the city's complaint procedure. It is a good complaint procedure. It says that all allegations of discrimination or harassment or requests from employees with disabilities regarding reasonable accommodation in the workplace, as well as complaints, questions, or comments regarding issues related to this policy, shall be promptly communicated to the Director of Human Resources or Human Resource and the analyst, or you can take it to a supervisor or his or her supervisor. The point is, the city can't fix what it doesn't know about. And if you think that you're being unfairly or unlawfully targeted in some way because of race or national origin, then the policy requires you to report it, and the policy requires you to report it in a timely way. The longer these things sit, one, the worse they can get, and two, the harder it is for HR or legal to determine what actually happened. And we find a lot of people are hesitant to report because they don't quite know to whom to go. They're a little afraid of possible repercussions, either from management or HR or their peer group. But the city wants you to know that it has a policy for a reason. It has a policy for your sake. It has a policy for its sake. If employees are unhappy about some treatment, particularly treatment based on race or national origin or age or disability or sexual orientation or gender, then it's in everyone's best interest to address it as quickly and effectively as we can. And we can only do that if you bring those complaints forward. And you can bring it to your immediate supervisor, another supervisor. Your supervisor may be the perceived problem, department director, and again, human resources. And be prepared to give the HR person or management enough that they can determine how or whether to investigate further. Who is it that's allegedly committing the behavior that you find offensive? What was that specific behavior? When it occurred? Where it occurred? Are there witnesses? There's also a formal grievance procedure. The point is, the company, the city, has a policy because it wants to ensure that its employees can work productively with each other in the workplace. To the extent there becomes a wrinkle or a hiccup with that, it has a policy that they want to know so they can help you sort it out. Both the law and your policy prohibits retaliation if you make a complaint based on, again, one of the protected statuses or protected activity, and protected activity can be many things, such as bringing a complaint about race discrimination, or serving on a jury, or filing a workers' comp claim, for example. So there are many protected statuses, many protected activities that the city takes seriously and wants to hear from you if you think that a policy or a law has been violated in some way. Or even if it's just a problem that you can't quite articulate whether you think it's a policy violation, you think it might be, you think it might not be, that's okay to bring that question forward. And again, your policy and the law says you will not be retaliated against because of that. It is neither a shield nor a sword, we like to say. When you bring a complaint, for example, that won't get you into trouble. If you're already in trouble, it won't save you from it. It's just absolute neutral in the workplace. Now, rather than talk about what constitutes actual harassment versus merely crude or rude or offensive behavior, it's probably best to talk about behaviors that the city doesn't want in its workplace, regardless of where that workplace is. Council chambers, city hall, police department, the Phrase Pavilion, swimming pools, the golf course, every place that you work for the city of Kettering is a workplace, whether that's a swimming pool, an outdoor theater, or, as I say, the police department or city hall itself. If you are about the business of Kettering, then that's the workplace. And the city requires behavior that's professional and businesslike. And we can't define professionalism in all of its particulars, but we can give you examples of the kind of behaviors that the city doesn't want performed by its employees. Some of the basic rules: keep your hands to yourself. We all learned this in kindergarten. Keep your hands to yourself and keep your mouth clean. Use nice words. Diversity is important, civility is important, complying with the laws are important, but at the end of the day, I really think you can boil down getting along in the workplace to a couple of concepts. One, use common sense, and two, understand that everybody comes with a different lens. Try to see put yourself in the other fellow's shoes, the other person's shoes. Basic kindness. If people are basically kind to one another, try to have empathy and see life through another person's lens, and keep your hands to yourself and keep your mouth clean, these problems pretty much go away. And when I say keep your mouth clean, I mean not only your spoken word, but words that you email, that you text, that you Instagram, that you Snapchat. Every mode of communication as a Kettering employee should be professional. It should be professional in every workplace. I think it's even more important in the public sector workplace, because at the end of the day, we're supported by taxpayer dollars. Every citizen of Kettering is, sort of our ultimate boss, and are probably keenly aware and keenly interested in how their tax dollars are being spent. So as, quote, public servants, close quote, as those who serve the public, I think we need to be on special guard against behavior that is unprofessional, and certainly against behavior that is hurtful or discriminatory based on race or sex or age or national origin, etc. So sometimes with common workaday speech, you forget where these lines are, but it's important that you know that the workplace is not your home. The workplace is not where you meet with friends and family primarily. The workplace is primarily for work. And that means that things you would say at home, you don't say at the workplace. So no retelling of smutty or offensive TV or radio humor. It may be that you and your colleague watched the same dirty movie the night before. Fine, that's your business. But when you come to work, it's the city's business. And if you're sitting in the break room talking trash, a coworker might be offended by that. So work is not home, and you can do things at home that you ought not to do at work. Be careful of any kind of trash talk. Trash talk meaning both profanity, lewd jokes, sexist jokes, racist jokes, any kind of talk that if it appeared on a billboard on 75 with your name on it and the city's name on it, and what you said might make you cringe, might make you say, wish I hadn't done that. Beware of that in the workplace. And profanity is, I'm not telling you it's somehow inherently unlawful. I'm telling you that it creates a tone. It creates a tone of a lack of professionalism that some people inside or outside the city would object to. And it's not how the city wants to present itself. And some profane words can be more problematic than others. The F-bomb, it may have become commonplace, but it offends many people, and it does have a sexual connotation. The B word, the C word, the N word, we all know those are off limits, or should know. And it doesn't matter whether the speaker is of that group. If I, as a female, call another female the B word, and I do it as a joke, it may be that that other person is not offended. That's really not the point. The point is that language doesn't belong in the workplace. And it doesn't belong in the workplace because, one, it's unprofessional, and two, it can be misinterpreted. If I call my female friend the B word, and a guy standing around or someone that we don't know attempts to join the conversation, thinks that he can say the B word or someone else can say the B word, then I may very well be offended. I wasn't offended when my friend and I used it, but he was not part of the perceived group, the perceived posse, the perceived club. And that creates problems. So it's better that we not use those words at all. The N word, of course, particularly offensive and has absolutely no place in the workplace. The Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is one of our most conservative circuits, has said that the N word has the force of a physical blow. The force of a physical blow. If the Fourth Circuit views the N word so seriously, then other circuits who are more liberal review it even more seriously, and the city of Kettering views it seriously too. It simply has no place in the workplace. That's true of any kind of ethnic or racist slur, sexist slur, just doesn't belong in the workplace. Beware of nicknames. People like nicknames. We like to call each other nicknames, but they can be loaded. So nicknames of any kind of ethnicity, nicknames denoting age, nicknames denoting weight, nicknames denoting national origin or religion, just a bad idea. Your parents spent a lot of time picking out the perfect name for you. Let's do them a favor and use that name as opposed to engaging in nicknames, which can be misunderstood. And I hear a lot, well, everybody's okay with it. Well, it doesn't matter that everyone's okay with it because the city of Kettering is not okay with it. If you guys all got together and signed a petition and took it to the city, and this petition said, we, the seasonal employees of Kettering, all love profanity and trash talk. The rougher and cruder our environment is, the better we like it. We stipulate that we like to work in a trashy environment. Now, do you think the city of Kettering would say, well, as long as you guys are okay with it? No, the city of Kettering is going to say, quite properly, Good to know, but that's not how we do business here. The fact that you are okay with unprofessional conduct is neither here nor there, because the workplace has rules. And please know that when you say something, your colleague may be offended even if he or she gives no indication of that. People don't speak up when they're offended. Some do, but many don't. And the reason they don't speak up can range from they think it won't do any good, they're not really bothered at the time, but they become bothered later, they become bothered as the behavior continues, they've spoken up before and they thought it didn't do any good, they're afraid to speak up because they don't want to get on HR's radar, or they're afraid to speak up because they don't want the peer group pressure. Please remember, again, we've got a complaint procedure that's meant to be effective and easy to use, and we want you to use it. And please also know that if you think about it for 2 seconds, do you really want to contribute to an environment where someone feels the need to complain? We've got a complaint procedure, happy to use it, but even better, if we have a workplace where people behave professionally and such a need disappears from the workplace. Because people all come to work with the goal of doing their job, keeping their heads down, and making sure they don't offend one another. I sometimes think that a great theme for a workplace is like the bar called Cheers in the old sitcom, where I want to go where everybody's glad I came and everybody knows my name. And I think that's a good theme for the workplace. We want to create, as close as we can, a workplace where everybody knows your name and everybody's glad you came. Or if they're not glad you came, at least it has nothing whatsoever to do with race or age, national origin, etc. To that end, please be careful of comments on physical characteristics such as weight, physical attributes, color, whatever it is. Some people may not mind it, some people take great offense. I got a question at one of the sessions I've done here in terms of, well, what if an employee goes to one of our wellness programs and loses 20 pounds and I'm not allowed to comment on that? Well, of course, that's not what we're saying. But there's all kinds of ways that you can make such a comment without getting into trouble. For example, you can say, congratulations on your success on the wellness program. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. I'm pleased for you that you've met your fitness goals. All kinds of ways to compliment people without becoming too personal, without making them feel bad about themselves, or without nudging up against that line where the person says they didn't have to say that my pants were tight anymore, because that made me think he was looking at my rump. You know, whatever it is, you know there are ways to say things that are professional and ways to say things that are not. When you are at work, when you are about the City of Kettering's business, you obviously want to use either your equipment, your technological devices, such as cell phones, etc., appropriately. You don't want to be time wasting with them, and you don't want to be inappropriate with them. And I hear the argument a lot, well, what I type on my own phone, even if I'm at work, is really not the city's business. Well, it may or may not be. If you're at work on the City of Kettering's business and you say with your own lips something offensive, a bunch of profanity, you make a sexist joke, you make a racist joke, that is the city's business. That doesn't change because you're communicating not by means of your mouth, but by means of your personal communication device. If on the workplace, if while you're a Kettering employee working for Kettering, you sext or send dirty pictures or send racist jokes at the workplace and it impacts the workplace, that may well be the city's business. So the distinction between what the city gives you and what you have yourself in terms of equipment is not what's significant. What's significant is the impact on the workplace. And most of us who are doing our jobs and engaged don't have a lot of time to fool around with sexting and texting and all that stuff anyway. So better to, again, keep your mind on your job, keep focused, earn your money, and keep everybody out of trouble. Obviously, you don't want to bring anything offensive or suggestive or racist onto the workplace. No sexual gag gifts, no sexual cards, no racist bumper stickers, no offensive magazines, no pornography. There's just no reason to have that in the workplace. There is no First Amendment right to have pornography in your truck in the workplace, in the company truck or whatever. So you need to be careful not to throw garbage around the workplace, because it's not just about you as an employee, one individual. It's about all of us. Every Kettering employee contributes to this work environment. If I took an empty water bottle, an empty Coke can, and threw it down here in the carpet of this nice council chambers, it would look bad, but not awful. But if every city employee threw down their lunch wrappers, threw down their cigarettes, threw down whatever, it would look tacky in very short time. Well, it's the same way with our intangible trash. If everybody's going around talking profanity, if everybody's going around groping each other, if everybody's going around giving back rubs, if everybody's making sexual remarks or racist jokes, the entire workplace becomes polluted very quickly. Each one of us has the responsibility to keep the workplace clean. Each one of us has responsibility to report when that is not occurring. And sometimes you might see something that doesn't affect you personally, but you know is inappropriate. Please feel free to bring that to management or HR as well. Anyway, in terms of how we behave in the workplace, no hazing or teasing of employees with respect to sex or age or race or national origin, disability, and these things can come up in conversations unexpectedly. When you're talking politics, for example, you may be talking about immigration, but pretty soon you're talking about race or national origin. You may be talking about whether Roe v. Wade should be reversed, the abortion decision by the Supreme Court. Pretty soon you may be talking about religion. You may be talking about a bombing incident in Belgium airport. Pretty soon you may be talking about Islamic jihadism and religion. So nobody's suggesting that you don't have a right to believe whatever you want to believe. And in the public sector, your First Amendment rights are stronger than in the private sector, but there are still limits. And the Title VII and Ohio law that prohibits discrimination and harassment on protected statuses applies to public sector employees as well as private sector employees. It's always a good rule of thumb. If you are in any doubt at all about saying it, then don't. And try again to put yourself in the other person's shoes. If you are a minority in a workplace, and in a given workplace, anyone can be a minority. In a given workplace, it might be the white male that's a minority. Another workplace, it may be the African-American female who's the minority. In a lot of workplaces, it can be a person with a disability who's in the minority. It can be a different state in different places, a different status in different places. But if you're that person, if you are one among many who is different in some significant way, it's a little harder. Your comfort level may be a little less. It's for those of us in the majority in a given situation, try to look at the situation through another person's lens. If I am very much in the majority and comfortable with that, then a joke may not be at all threatening. If I'm new to the workplace or in the minority, then that same joke I may not be as comfortable with, and that makes perfect sense. So try to think about that as you go through your workday, because I think most of us want to work in a workplace where people do feel comfortable. It doesn't do me any good at all to have a colleague of mine, to have a coworker of mine made to feel unwelcome in the workplace. That doesn't help me, it doesn't help the city, it doesn't help any of us. Refrain from any kind of horseplay, such as goosing or humping or groping. It is inappropriate, it is unprofessional, it is juvenile, and will get you into trouble at the city. So don't do it. Again, if you have a complaint, don't delay in reporting it. The sooner, the better. Because every day is really you're a step away from being on camera in the city of Kettering. You're in a public role. You're a public servant. TV's watching, council's watching, citizens are watching, and we want to make the city of Kettering proud of its employees, not embarrassed by them. So rather than talk a lot about the legal standards, because those legal standards are a minimum, they are unpredictable, they are complicated, we want to talk about a higher standard, and that's the City of Kettering standard, where people come to work and act professionally. And I don't care if we call it the junior high way is junior high's way so over. We call it the workplace is not your home. Act like you interview standard, the mature professional behavior standard, whatever we want to call it, that's what we want to enforce at the City of Kettering. And we want your help in doing it. If you have a problem, you observe a problem, the city can't fix what it doesn't know about and wants you to come talk to it. And please don't assume that because people don't speak up, they're not offended. As we've already mentioned, people don't speak up for lots of reasons, and you cannot assume in this situation that people's silence is assent. They may resent what you've just said, but be unwilling to say so at that point. And just because, again, you think people are okay with the speech or the conduct, or if people really are okay with a speech or conduct that's questionable, that's not the point. The city is not comfortable with it. And people do change their minds. What you say to me on Monday, I may be offended the next week. What if you tell me a joke about gays? I don't think much about it one way or the other. But then my kid tells me that he's gay. The next time you tell me a joke, I am going to have a whole different reaction to that. But you may not know that. I have not told you that my kid is gay. When you make jokes about race, you have no idea really about your coworkers. Maybe their brother has adopted a biracial child. You don't know, but you're making some crack about race. Even if they don't tell you they're offended, they may well be. So better to stay away from that kind of talk in the workplace. And you can't always tell what the other person's offends. You say, well, it doesn't offend me, it won't offend them. You simply can't guarantee that. The most important thing for you to remember is that you are part of the Kettering team. If you have a complaint, the complaint procedure is there for you to be addressed, and it's important that you treat each other with civility and respect, and that doesn't change because you happen to be working at a place that's not a typical work environment. If you have questions about any of this, please feel free to direct them to HR, and they'll be happy to help you. So keep your hands to yourself, keep your mouth clean, and have a good work day.